My heritage is Germans from Russia. And so when I was growing up, I heard my parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles all speaking a dialect called Low German or Plattdeutsch. So when I came across this poem, it made me laugh and I wanted to share it with you. This is a version of The Night Before Christmas, but it's a Pennsylvania Dutch version. So it's like an Amish farmer telling the story of the night before Christmas. So I'll put on my hat here so I'll look the part of an Amish farmer and want to share it with you. It was night before Christmas, and all over the farm, nothing was schlusslich, no cause for alarm. The socks were all hung by the chimney just so, with the hopes they all get filled up from ankle to toe. The nicksnoozes snoozing without any sound, in their heads clear toy candies been dancing around. And Mama and me, well, we out in the light, crawled under the covers and snuggled up tight. Then from the outside we heard something fierce that made open our eyeballs and rattled our ears. There was crashing and banging, and could it be true? Did our ears deceive us, or was that a moo? Then off to the window we ran in the dark, kicked the dog accidental, he started to bark. When we looked through the window, coming in through the gate, it wasn't one mooer we saw, it was 8. 4 cows and 4 steers, they were harnessed somehow, and were dragging behind them an old-fashioned plow. And there, just behind it, as sour as a pickle, was a fella we knew had to be the Belschnickel. He wiggled that plow to keep going on course. I think he'd done better if he'd had a horse. So dopplich and slow those 8 dummers did run, and he growled and he grumbled and yelled at each one. Now Jakey, now Becky, now Rachel, Josiah, on Minnow, on Sarah, Esther, Obadiah, and watch where you're going, there's nothing unwiser than stamping your hoofs into stray fertilizer. They got through the barnyard without any hitch, and the Belschnickel grumbled and raised a big switch. Climb up on that roof now, and you make it snappy. You don't want to make me no more unhappy. March off on that trellis, then to the porch roof, and don't get no ivy vines caught in your hoof. I'll get awful gristlich if you make me fall. So clamber up, clamber up, clamber up all. Like the chickens all look when to fly they're trying, or the mess kids are making when shoes they are tying. So clumsy they climbed up an inch with each moo, but somehow they made it, and it wonders me too. And then in a twinkle we heard on the roof each cow that was rutching round, stamping its hoof. The cracks of the roof timbers filled all our ears, 'cause it just wasn't built for 4 cows and 4 steers. By now all the kiddies had run in our room, frightened by all of those cracks and those booms. To tell them what happened, I was going to begin, when jumpin' chizooey, the ceiling fell in. Down came the Belschnickel, plop in our bed, a few shingles making down right on his head. And when we looked up through the hole in the ceiling, it was just a little bit buried, we're feeling. For there overhead was that 8 head of cattle, still stomping so hard that it made the walls rattle. We all felt as if we'd all been cursed and were hexed, and that cows would fall down into our bedroom next. But they stay on the roof stayed, and I wiped away sweat, then looked at that scary old Belschnickel yet. He had got to his feet and was brushing his breeches, holding his sack and using his switches. He was dressed all in black from his toes to his hat, and he frowned and he said, "Hey, what are you looking at? Ain't you never seen no Belschnickel before?" Well, I had, but the others had come through the door. His beard was all strublich, as white as snowfall, and his belly so skinny it nearly was all. I couldn't help thinking that this crabby guy could use a few dumplings and shoe-fly pies. His eyes, they look angry, but though they seemed wild, when he looked at the kiddies, he just sort of smiled. Then he wiped away like he'd made a mistake, or for him some schnitzen that Mama should make. Then he asked all the kiddies, have you been bad or sweet? If it's good that you've been, then I'll give you a treat. But if you've been bad, then I'll warm your britches with one of my special bad kitty switches. They said they'd been good, and were telling the truth. Still he glowered at Amos, he grimaced at Ruth, he frowned down at Abner, who just kind of grinned, and the bell-snickle leaned down and tickled his chin. Ah, crabby I might seem, but don't you forget, I ain't never had to spank one kitty yet. It just must be something around in the air, makes the kiddies act better at this time of year. So his switches he dropped, and he opened his sack, and he handed out oranges, yo-yos, and jacks, a dolly for Ruth, and a wood horse for Amos. We laughed as we watched him, and who could blame us? And finally he gave to Abner a teddy. With that final gift to leave he was ready. But he said as he crawled over shingles and sticks, I'll send over Stoltzfus your broke roof to fix. Then he chumped the hole through up to his baiting plow, and he yelled to his livestock, get going, and now, down to the ground, and without no complaint, until we get done and the houses all ain't. They sprung off the fore to the yard way below, where they got stuck in near 40 inches of snow. And that bell-schnickel yelled, brushing snow off his head, Merry Christmas to all, now just go back to bed.